Are you surprised?
I can't say I'm surprised. We see this in sports after about a decade or so. Sometimes a manager or a head coach's talk and stuff can become background noise, white noise, as they say, to players. It's just the message gets lost because they hear the same thing over and over again. And he's been there for quite a while. They had a high-profile Game 7 loss, which was deflating. There's been many reports that he wants to spend more time at home with his family. He's a family man. And also there've been rumblings that while he's a good manager in terms of optimizing the team, recently the Yankees, until this year, have consistently outperformed their win total expectancy. Maybe they're about a 500 team and they win upper 80s in games. They challenge for a playoff spot almost. So he seems to optimize what's there. But it never feels, or it's never felt like the respect for him has crossed over to love for him from the players, and so all those things can kind of be on a player's mind, on a manager's mind, and on an organization's mind. I think Girardi was an excellent manager. I thought in-game strategy at times, particularly in this postseason, was not good, but what's much more important is that you have a team playing for each other, pulling together, and you have your eyes on the entire picture, which is over the course of a season. Can they overperform what you expect? And then when the time comes, do they play well? I think the answer is yes to all that. But Stephen A., this is a young and ascending group that the Yankees have. And I think that maybe Girardi, the manager of the previous era, his time had passed, and the Yankees are probably looking, not only does he want to spend time with the family and all that, but the Yankees are probably looking to handpick the next manager to take them into this new and apparently very promising era. The Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, Luis Severino, those guys, they want their own kind of guy, the way the Yankees brought in Joe Torre to take care of that last dynastic era.
That's why I disagree with you. I don't like the idea that Joe Girardi is gone at all. I don't think he should have been gone because there's no definitive hand-picked successor to him, according to the reports. You've got Tony Pena, you've got the bench coach. These are guys that are respected internally, but at the same time, they're going to look externally because you don't know. If there were a Joe Madden out there, if there was somebody, I'm not saying literally Lou Piniella, but a Lou Piniella type, somebody that had a resume that you knew was destined and had been craving the opportunity to return the Yankees to their glory days or what have you, and it was a definitive individual, that would be far different. The problem is that they don't seem to have that right now, and that's what resonates with me. I understand he won just one World Series title, but it was a World Series title. He'd been to the postseason 6 times. You got to remember the transition that he had to deal with, going from the old to the young while transitioning the old out of there. With Derek Jeter, clearly his lateral movement was, my man Brandon Tierney reminded me of that just a couple of weeks ago, where Derek Jeter just wasn't the same as he used to be, and didn't want to leave and didn't want to stop playing. But at the same time, Joe Girardi had to negotiate that position between his legacy and what Derek Jeter meant to the franchise and all the things that he had done to moving into a new era. You've got the Aaron Judges, the Gary Sanchez's, the Castros, the Gregoriuses of the world, and others. You're transitioning in these new guys. He had to negotiate all of that as well. And what do? They beat the Twins in a 1-game wild-card series. They come back from a 2-0 deficit against Cleveland after that faux pas on the part of Joe Girardi, and they played their butts off for him. And then they go to 7 games against the Houston Astros, and it wasn't his fault that those guys suddenly couldn't hit whenever they were away from Yankee Stadium. Don't get me started with the amount of strikeouts Aaron Judge had, along with Gary Sanchez. I like them. I'm fond of them. I'm happy that they're parts of the New York Yankees moving into the future. Make no mistake about it, but they were pathetic on the road, or at least Aaron Judge was. So when I look at it from that perspective, and I take all of those things into consideration, I'm saying I would feel far more comfortable with this move, Max, if they had a definitive individual that they absolutely positively knew was the successor to Joe Girardi. But just for him to be gone because they agreed to part ways, I don't want to hear that. You came within 1 game of the World Series. You can come back with these same troops, with this same leader who is a good man, who is a straight shooter, who is respected by New Yorkers, even if he's not always liked. And I'm saying you can make another run. If you have a definitive successor, all of that goes out the window, because I understood that. If you remember, Max, when Joe Torre was on his way out, I had been saying all along, Joe Girardi, Joe Girardi, Joe Girardi, even with that 1 year in Miami, get him up out of there. He's the guy that needs to be in New York succeeding Joe Torre. If there was somebody like that we definitively knew
I think that's a
would
very
succeed
strong
Girardi,
point, Stephen A.
that would be me. But that's not what exists right now.